I am ready.
We better be, because you're already on. I am ready. I am ready. Okay, so we are back.
Yes, we are.
We missed tonight. Everybody, I think, was a little disappointed. Yeah, I wasn't feeling well last night. I had a headache, and then I clenched my teeth, and then, yeah, I woke up with a really bad neck ache. But my chiropractor got me in and gave me an adjustment, and that helped tremendously. I feel like I did my hair. I took a shower finally, and I feel like Pinky Tuscadero. Do you remember who that is? Did you watch Happy Days?
Yes, I did.
Do you remember Pinky Tuscadero?
Yes, I do.
I feel like that's what my hair looks like.
You look beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. So
that was from your mother.
So thanks, Mom. You look beautiful too.
Thank you.
Okay.
And so do you. You look gorgeous.
And so do you. You look beautiful too. Yes, you do. We love you.
Oh, dear.
So, where did we leave off? We were back. Now we're on Rice Street.
We're on Rice Street.
Yeah, and kind of
a lot happened when
I was
we were
going to say,
Rice Street,
kind of the rest of the story isn't so happy.
No, a lot of sad things happened.
Yeah, a lot of sad things. Because on Rice Street,
it was a while ago now. How long ago was that now? It's quite a while ago. I had just retired. Yeah.
So I was 28 when Chris passed away.
Yes.
And she was 42. So let's see, 28, 38, 48. So it was like 28 years ago.
And it was, I can remember that Dad had his retirement party. And that night, Chris and Frank, I think Frank came, but to tell us that Chris wasn't coming, which was very unusual. Anyway, we celebrated Dad's retirement, and he drank what was left in the, what was that?
Like the grasshoppers.
The grasshopper. He loved grass, and it was a big bowl, and there was some left in the bottom. And just before we left, some of the guests had left. He picked up this big bowl and he finished it.
Yeah, and my dad never drank, only on specific occasions, and that was one of them. Yeah.
Anyway, we were all concerned, and the next day, Dad and I went over to their house, and we were told that she had been diagnosed with cancer, and it was very aggressive, and she only lived for 3 months. It was
because I remember that was in October, because my birthday was right after that on the 26th, and then she died January 13th. Yeah. And I remember it was the first time I saw Dad cry. I had came into the house, and that was when I think the ambulance came to get her, and he was holding on to the countertop, both of his hands, and he had teardrops, and they just like fell onto the counter. I had never seen Dad cry before. So yeah, so that was very aggressive. And she's
very quick, yes.
But she hung on because her heart was so strong, remember? She was in hospice for like 2.5 weeks.
And we were all with her when she died.
Yeah, we would like take rotations and, be with her. There was always somebody with her in the room. And she said some profound things. Remember, she asked how far marathon was? And you all looked at me. You're like, Tracy, how far is a marathon? And yeah, she said some profound things before she passed away. And then, well, how about the story? Because remember Pam? Pam lived in California. And Pam was kind of waiting because they didn't know, because she was holding on. And Pam didn't want to like come and then stay there for a long time. And so when we finally called Pam to come, they had that huge earthquake.
Oh, yes.
The biggest earthquake they ever had.
She had a beautiful apartment in a
condo.
Yep. And when Well, I'll go into that later, but actually because she was coming to Chris's
Right.
funeral,
Yes.
a lot of people were injured
Yes.
in that
Her
building,
TV
in
fell
her
out
building.
of her thing. She had
And
a
it was
TV
on her bed, and
yeah.
it was huge.
Yeah. So that,
Yeah.
and that was the biggest earthquake they ever had. So she had just left to come here.
So we figure it probably even saved her life. It was when she would have been in bed. Yeah.
And remember, Chris kept asking when, was it the 13th or the 14th that she passed away? It's been so long. But it was the 13th or the 14th, and she kept asking, when's the 13th? And I remember Al and I looked at each other and we're like, well, because she was hanging on for so long, and we're like, oh, should we tell her it's the 13th? Because she seemed to, I mean, she was on morphine and stuff, but it had gone to her brain by that time, and we didn't want her to be in pain. But, and she died at 20 minutes after midnight, the morning of the 13th.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, she said some profound things that, and like I said, Pam left and there was the earthquake, and otherwise Pam would have been in it. But anyway, after that, then life was just kind of normal. Nothing really happened.
And then 10 years, we have to go 10 years
Yeah.
later. Because we were just living our lives later.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing really,
Yeah.
Everything was really nice.
Yeah.
And then
Frank had a brain
Frank
tumor.
called me and said he was just diagnosed with a brain tumor.
And that was Chris's husband.
That's Chris's husband, and he was taking care of the 2 little kids.
So Chris, when she passed away, Chad was 12 and Anna was 9.
Yes.
And they had Chad, and then they adopted Anna from Bogota, Colombia, when Anna was like...
When she was born,
Yeah, little baby.
It was 10 years later that Frank died. And
He had a brain tumor, and they did surgery on that. And remember, he was supposed to live for I remember sitting at the hospital. We were all there when he was having his surgery. And then he was supposed to live for another 5 years after the surgery.
Hopefully, yes.
And then they found out he had a tumor wrapped around his carotid artery that they didn't know about. And nobody would operate on it because they were afraid he would die on the operating table.
So the kids, actually Chad, she's the one was his son.
Yep.
And she's the one she visited at Christmas. But
in Houston.
Yeah. No, see, there it is. I forgot what I was going to say.
It comes and it goes, doesn't it?
I'm sorry. It went.
So,
Somewhere.
I remember Frank died at home. He was in hospice, and they lived on a lake. And I was there when Frank died.
We were both with him.
Yep.
Don't you
I
remember?
drove it. Yep.
And
then an eagle flew over.
I was just, an eagle. The minute I know Jody, he had married again, and Jody was holding he was on the bed, and she was holding his head in her lap. And all of a sudden, he took his last breath, and she looked up, and family was around, and friends.
Yep.
She had an open house. There was always
people
someone
just
there.
came in and out and talked to him. And
And she looked up, and she said, he's gone.
Yeah.
And then we were on this porch with windows, and this eagle.
Yep.
It was promising. It was a happy thing that the eagle had flown by.
Do you remember when Al passed away? We'll get to that. But remember all the birds that came in that tree?
Yes.
And there was some sign. It was
Things
bizarre.
like this happen all the time, I'm sure, in other families too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so then, okay, Frank passed away. And then again, nothing really, I mean, just living life. Nothing. Because I think we all, were grown up and had kids. And so we were all just kind of, I mean, I was a single mom. And I was dealing with my own.
Once in a while, we'd have lunch or something, one or the other. But,
I mean, every Tuesday, remember?
Nothing happened, though.
No,
that was bad.
No, but we would get together every Tuesday, remember?
Yeah.
We would go, we would bring Jesse out.
Oh, you and I.
Yeah. So we saw each other all the time. I mean, and then I moved into my townhouse and just kind of lived life because, like I said, that's when we all grew up and we had all of our kids. And so we were all just kind of taking care of our families and living life. And then Dad.
Oh, well, oh, this was right after Frank died, though.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait. Yeah,
yeah.
we missed that whole part. Yes.
We did.
Yeah.
I know it's there. To say, to let you know that Frank was almost like a son to Dad.
Right.
They had so much in common, and they just got along famously for all those years that they were married.
Yeah.
And Dad was very emotional, and he didn't show his emotions so much. And we went to the Mass, and then we got home, and he said, I'm going to lay down. And I said, okay, that's good, you know, rest. And all of a sudden, I was in the kitchen, but I could see him laying on the bed we're situated so I could see him laying on the bed straight up. Yeah. And he made some funny noises, and I went up, and he was talking, but he wasn't saying, it was gibberish. He thought he was talking to me, but it was gibberish. And this one arm was just hanging there.
Oh my gosh, you must have been scared.
I called Sandy, and I said, I didn't know if I could dial 911. I was nervous.
Upset. Yeah.
And I said to Sandy, I said, something terrible is happening here. I said, I think Dad is having a stroke. I said, call 911. And she did. They came right away. They started working on him. They took him in, and he had all the blood in the back of his head.
Yeah, because
it was that kind of stroke. I don't know what.
Well, because I remember, so we left Frank's service, and Jessie, I remember she was still little. She was in the back seat, in her seat, and we were driving because we were going to go to Kim and Jim's and have like a, you know, they had a pool, and we were just going to have like a barbecue or something. And so we had just left there, and I was driving down, it was a dirt road that they had at the time, and they were coming towards me. And I'm like, well, where are they going? We're going to their house. And they stopped, and they said, Dad had a stroke. He's at the emergency room. We have to go. And so we got there, and that's when, remember, we were like, well, should we pray? Because we were talking to his surgeon or his doctor, and it was a woman.
She was a wonderful Asian woman.
And we said, should we pray that he dies, or should we pray that he lives? Because we didn't know, because she said there's so much bleeding on the brain that if it doesn't stop, that it'll just bleed out, and he'll die instantly because it'll come out the brainstem, because the brain could only handle so much blood. But then remember, she said he was her miracle patient because he was still talking. They asked him when your anniversary was, and he could still speak. He knew it, and I think you didn't. But so he was still talking even though all that was happening to him.
And it was a miracle. He didn't die from it.
No, that night it quit bleeding.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
It quit.
So it was going to go one way or the other. And it quit bleeding. And then he had to go to like a senior home to recover that. Or no, then he went to the hospital. It was another hospital. It was a rehab hospital.
But
then he went to the senior home, remember, on Roselawn? Remember when he got to be friends with all those people there?
Yeah, but first...
Yeah, first he went to a hospital, a rehab.
Yeah, but eventually he came home.
Yeah.
And then we went to therapy.
Yeah.
And he stayed there in that hospital.
Yeah.
For a few months.
Yeah.
And do you know, he couldn't even sit up by himself.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't. He would just, like a newborn baby.
Mm-hmm.
And we took him to therapy, and he lived in there.
Yeah, that's
it
what
was
I'm
a
talking
hospital,
about.
like a hospital.
Yeah.
And I went every day, early in the morning, and I left at 9 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
And was with him all that time. And I was with him when he was in rehab, when the woman was, and sometimes it was, he was so weak, and she was making him walk. I mean, try to walk.
Yeah.
And I just watched. That's all I could do. And it was for months. And you know, he ended up walking again. The only thing that was wrong with him when he was recovered was his left side. I mean, he kind of didn't use that leg too well, but he could walk. And his left eye, he had no peripheral vision in his left eye. And when we finally got home, he would eat, but he would only eat the stuff on the right side of his plate.
Because he couldn't see?
Because he thought he was done.
He's like, why'd you give me half a plate?
I know. And then he couldn't do the steps then, and we had 3 stories. We had a below and a main one, and then upstairs.
Yes.
And so I had to find, we had to move, and I got a 1-floor townhome.
Yep.
And because they didn't know for sure if he'd have to always use a wheelchair, but he didn't.
No, he didn't.
And then we lived there for 3 years. We had 3
good years,
wonderful years there. I still drove. He couldn't drive. And we went to lunch, and we go to movies, and just little things. And then he had another stroke after 3 years, but he didn't make it that time.
I remember they called me. I was working, I ran a med spa. That's when I was at the med spa in Egan. And I don't remember, I think Sandy called me, and I just hopped in my car and took off. And I got there first, and they were just wheeling him in, and they had intubated him. Because he had exasperated. Didn't he throw up? Didn't he just eat breakfast or something? And then he, like, I don't know.
Well, I don't know. He, I don't know what that was
or
called.
Something,
And then he couldn't talk. I mean, he didn't die immediately there.
No.
You know, we took him to the hospital, and then that thing happened when they were trying to...
They intubated him. They stuck a tube down his throat, and then he could never talk again,
and
remember?
He couldn't talk. And that was something too.
And so he was in the hospital there was always the one good thing about having
intensive care.
One good thing about having a bigger family. Oh, I remember Sandy and I got there. I got there first, and then they wheeled him into like this side room. And Sandy and I were there, and we were overhearing that she was saying, well, Al, do you know where you are? And you know that you have a do not resuscitate on your... Well, you know how, like, you sign that, like, if you're dying, don't resuscitate. And he was like, what? Wait, no. Sandy were like, I think it's a little different when you're kind of in the situation.
Well, they did all they could to save him.
Well, and he had still, but then remember, he was in his bed, and he was trying to talk, but he couldn't. That was the saddest part of the whole thing, was that he wanted to say so many things, and he could never say what he wanted to. And he would start, because we'd get him like a thing with the ABCs on it to see if he could like point it out, and he would get too frustrated. And then I remember one time I was left by myself. Like, this had never happened before, but I don't know how I ended up. I think you went to take a shower because you never left, but I think once you just went to home to take a shower and clean up. And I got left all by myself, and I was sitting there staring at him, and it's like a newborn baby. Like he was breathing so shallow. That I'd look at him like this to see if he was breathing.
I've done that when you kids were little.
And then all of a sudden I was sitting there, and I'm like, oh my God, he died. Like, he's not breathing. And then all of a sudden he moved his leg, jumped up. And I'm like, oh my God, you people left me alone here. And then I remember the doctor came, and he pulled me out. He told me to come outside the room, and he said, are you the only one here? And I'm like, yeah. And he said, well, your dad's organs are shutting down, and so you're going to have to. And I'm like, I'm here all by myself. I'm like, so I called Dad. I'm like, somebody get here. I'm here all by myself. And that's when he told me that Dad was, you know. But that was the hardest part, was that he could never say what he wanted to at the end because he couldn't speak. And he so wanted to. You could see it in his eyes. He was so frustrated. And then he went into hospice.
Do you remember what Jessie said when we wheeled him in? She said, She was, how old was she then?
She was like 7.
She was so
young.
close to him, and she called him Papa. And his other grandpa, you know, some grandpas aren't real close to their grandkids, and he had a lot of grandkids. So,
yep.
And so she really didn't see too much of her other grandpa.
No.
And you were holding her, and she asked Tracy, she says, is Papa going to die? And what did you say? And what did she say?
And she said, there'll never be another Papa, or he's not a Papa.
Well, she said, wait, well, and then you said, yes, he is going to die. And she started to cry, and Tracy said, well, you have your Grandpa Doherty. And she says, well, he's just a grandpa. He's not a papa. A little kid said that, and they always say what they
and then
think.
I remember she was in the back seat, and she said, Grandpa's up in heaven holding all the babies.
Yes.
And that would be Dad, yep.
Yeah. Well, she would bring all of her stuffed toys, and she
downstairs.
would pile them all around him when he was sitting in a chair, and he just let her do it. Yeah.
And that was the only one when we went to Ireland. You guys watched Jessie. She was just a baby. And Dad would do anything for... Didn't he get up and feed her?
He told me, I want to get up for her 2 o'clock feeding. He said, I want to feed her. And well, you know, after he had a stroke, this very feminine side came out. I mean, he always was gentle and kind. But even after that, then he said, no. He said, I want to give her 2 o'clock feeding. And I said, okay. So I made all the bottle and everything, and I got the rocking chair out, and I said, it's 2 o'clock. You want to feed the baby? He got up. He got that rocking chair, and there he was feeding her.
Yeah.
He really,
they were attached to each other. Yeah.
Soft feelings came out. Yeah, it was neat. It was really neat. Yeah.
So then Dad passed away. And they were all in hospice. So Chris was in hospice, Frank was in hospice, Dad was in hospice. And then after that...
Then how many years were...
Then Pam.
Oh, Pam, our daughter Pam, lived in California.
And we hadn't heard from her in years. She had detached herself from the family. I was almost going to get a private detective to find her just to make sure that she was okay.
But then, who was her good friend, Ray.
Yeah,
that is a woman. Her name is Ray. And
she was in California at the time.
Yeah, and she went to see her. And it's lucky she went. We've had this in our lives, our whole life. Always something changes things, and it's for the good. So if Ray hadn't gone to see her, she probably would have died because she had the stroke. What happened?
Pam was out. Yeah, she fell in the parking lot. But Ray wasn't there. But they called Ray, or they called Mark or something.
I got it confused.
They called Mark because Mark used to live with her. They were good friends. And Ray happened to be in California at the time. I think on business.
And they don't live in California, but
no, they don't. They live in Chicago. And so, so Ray went to be with her, and Pam had multiple strokes. And they said if Pam had been home, because she lived alone at the time, that she probably would have died because she wouldn't have gotten any help.
Yeah. So
she was outside and was in a parking lot, and someone saw her, and she had multiple strokes. And then Ray and Mark took her to Chicago.
And they took care of her.
And they took care of her. And then while she was with them, she had another stroke.
Yes.
And then they had to put her in, it was like a hospital, but with like a...
It was a charity. I don't know what it was.
I don't know what it was either. It was awful. Awful. So right away when Mark...
we found out.
When she let Mark, call us and tell us where she was, right away, you and I drove down there that weekend to Chicago.
And she was so skinny.
Well, and she had a feeding tube in for so long, and they didn't do anything to it. They left it in so long that it got infected.
Yeah.
Remember? And it was so awful. And we would go see her then, like on weekends. And remember, you bought her a whole, like, new thing of matching sweatpants and sweat tops, you know, so that she would feel fresh and have something to wear. And then remember, we went and somebody had stole them.
Yeah. Well, the thing was, the good news was we got, Sandy used to work. Sandy works in, she was retired.
She worked for the state.
In social work. And she had contact with people.
Well, she didn't work in social work. She was an accountant. She worked in the finance, but she knew
social workers.
Yes.
That was, she did the finance. Yeah, she was in the business part. But anyway, and that all came in handy though, because it took a long time to get Pam out of that place and here to Minnesota. And the good news is, she's been here now for.
And then she was in a facility in Stillwater for a while where the people were amazing, but the facility again, and she had a room, she had to share a room.
Yes, you had
with that lady.
Yeah.
And the lady was not kind. And anyway, but now she's in an assisted living home. She has her own
nice
place.
Apartment.
Yes, it's like a studio apartment for herself, and she can.
And it's cute, close by.
And it's close by. Yes.
Takes what, about 10 to 15 minutes
to get there. Yeah.
And we see her, go and see her every week. Yeah.
Yep. So that happened. And then
what was the next thing? And then a few years went by and everything again was going smooth. Just everybody happy, everybody having fun and getting older.
Yeah.
And my son Al came one day and told us that he had just been diagnosed with cancer.
Colon cancer.
But they gave him 3 years, but he lived like almost 7, didn't he?
I think 6.
I mean,
yeah.
And
then Kim got diagnosed with MS before that.
Yes, but
her MS that was in her late 50s, and they said, don't look at it like, you know, what you see.
The doctor told her she may never have another episode, and this has been quite a few years ago, and she's fine. She's fine now.
She's fine.
We can say that she's got a great job and so many grandchildren now. Yeah.
And then Al, so then Al, it was when he first got it, remember they gave him chemo, and then they were going to do surgery, but they didn't have to do surgery because he had gone into remission.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So the first time, and it was weird because it was every fall. Because Al and I, it's not like we would talk on the phone. You know, Al never really, he had his own life and whatever. Yeah. But so every fall, I would get a phone call. I would see what was Al. And it was him telling me his cancer was back. And I'm like, you got to call me at other times because every time you call me, I know what you're going to say to me. And so it was like really every year he would go into remission and then he would call and it was back.
Yeah.
And so you'd think that he was clear of it, and then he did radiation, and then finally just like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I don't know, time goes by so fast. It had gotten to his lungs and then his liver.
He fought really hard.
And he died 2 days after his birthday.
Yeah.
His birthday was October 15th.
And he died on October 17th. That was 2 years ago now, right?
Yeah, and he had
this
just
October,
turned,
it'll be...
Did he just turn 61 or 62 when he passed away?
He was going to be 62.
So he had just turned 62?
I
know. With so many kids, it's hard to remember. But he had died 2 days after his birthday.
But he was so... He worked... he and his wife and son lived in Saudi Arabia he worked for
the government
and something free,
the Radio Free Republic.
Radio Free, yeah. And
in Prague. That was in Prague, not Saudi Arabia.
He wasn't when he was younger.
So when he worked, but back in the day when I wanted to say this too, when he worked in Saudi Arabia, because someone wrote us from Saudi Arabia. Someone left a comment, remember?
Yes, and he worked in that building that was bombed.
Well, and so what had happened, it was the government building, and he was coming home. He had been there for years, and his good friend was taking over his office.
Yeah.
And so the day after Al left to come home and his friend took over his office, the building was bombed.
His office was bombed and his friends were killed. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for finishing the story for me. No, his friend died, the one who took over his office.
Yeah, but other people died too.
Yeah. On the building. Yeah.
Yeah, he worked in Saudi, and then he and his wife went to Prague because he was working with that Radio Free, and
they
lived there for 2 years, 2 or 3. Then they came home and they loved it so much that when they retired, they were thinking of going to Prague.
Yep.
So now where are we? Now we're...
So that was a couple years ago, and then now it's just been kind of...
Yeah, now it's...
Living life, huh?
Yeah.
And now, Sandy and Dan, they have a new granddaughter. Well, she's like 2. Harper?
Almost. I think she is. Yeah.
Yep. I know. Yeah. And Sandy and Dan are like 72.
70. They'll be 72.
Yeah. And so that's where we are now. Where then they bought this house a long time ago. It was like not what it is now. It was a fixer-upper.
Yeah.
So they bought it and they've made it into what it is. And so now they plan on selling and then renting and then waiting to see what they want to buy. And then that's why you're moving.
And that's why I'm moving.
And then I left because Jesse had gone to college.
Yeah.
And I wanted to move out of that place anyway because it was so big. I mean, it's just me. Why would I, you know? And so it just seemed a perfect time. And I bought the van. Remember how I manifested the van?
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. And then, so everything just kind of worked out right as far as timing went. And then I left for the winter and voila, here we are.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the second part.
It's kind of sad. In fact, I'm sorry we got to that sad
Sorry, but you know, it's
but
not,
it's
I mean,
what
it's
happened.
life. Yeah, but that's how we feel like it's, you know, whenever, I remember people like, when people come up to me, and I worked at law firms for so long and everything was like, everything's on fire. You know what I mean? Like if oh my gosh, this has to get done. And I said, you know what? Unless anybody's life is in peril, it's not that big of a deal. We'll get it done. So if all that put life into perspective for me, knowing that, you know, we know like you can't take your money with you, you know, material stuff means nothing. You know, that it's people and, you know, just relationships.
I have found after 90 years and studying all kinds of stuff since I was about 31 or 32, I have come to the conclusion that the only thing of value in this whole world, the only thing we can take with us in this whole world, because everything else is transient and temporary, even mountains and galaxies. Again, I'll tell you now, the only thing of value in this world is love.
You even pointed. The only thing
of value. Oh, did I point?
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
That's okay. Why do you always do that? There's not, they like the pointing. The only thing
But that's what I've learned. I mean, for me, that's why I was studying. I wasn't trying to learn this for anybody else.
But that's what people, you know, people said for all that you've been through and like the depression and all those things and, you know, with the family and stuff, that how nothing jaded you, that you still seem so kind. But that's the thing. Once you think that stuff like that would make you softer, because then you have empathy for other people. I know that that's what it's taught me, is to have empathy for other people. Like when I see people on the side of the road, like those people that they're like, oh my gosh, Tracy, don't talk to those people. You know, like, but they're people. I mean, remember
nice people.
Remember, like I would pick people up off the side of the road.
Yes, she does.
Not like creepy people.
No,
no. Like that woman, remember we were at Kmart and it was storming out?
Yes.
And her umbrella was broken. She was walking. And it was me, you, and Jesse. And we picked her up. And she lived like miles away. Yeah. And, you know, just people that, I mean, believe me, I know that it's mostly women that who, you know, like I said, feel like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I, you know, have to pick them up. But, and Jessie sometimes would be like, because she'd see somebody on the side of the road and she goes, Mom, do not.
I think you get vibes. You get a feeling if someone is, you know.
Well, and that's what I mean. And not like when I
something.
do that, it was completely light out. We were in the middle of the truck stop. You know, they weren't going to do anything. And here's the thing. Anything could happen to me here that could happen there. So anyway.
Well, there's something we forgot
What
while
did we
we were
forget?
talking. We forgot that my son Al, kind of in the middle of his fight with cancer, decided that he was going to not have everybody come to his funeral.
Oh, yeah.
He was going to have
In a wake.
a wake.
He was very funny.
And he's going to be there.
Yeah,
with
he
that.
said, I want to be around when you're saying nice things about me. Yeah.
And he had so many friends because
They flew in from Prague.
Yes,
and
he's worked so many in foreign places.
yeah.
Has lots of friends. And of course on Neighbors and the
Yeah.
friends we've had all through his childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody came to his awake party.
His awake because you
His
usually
awake.
you have a
Yes.
wake for people, but he called. He goes,
Awake
"I'm having an awake."
Yes.
And he catered it in, and he got to talk to everybody, and yeah, that was the best idea ever. Because then you get to say goodbye to everybody.
It was a wonderful
And that's what he
idea.
said. I want to hear. And then his funeral, he had written and done and he had like the Beatles playing or something. Remember, he had a song, and he had things read because he was just kind of a funny, smart aleck kind of guy. And
he was funny.
Yeah.
He was funny like his dad.
And then he wrote all of us, Kathy, about a month later, after he passed away, went to dinner with us, and he had written a letter to each one of us.
Yes, and we got it after he died.
After he died.
Yeah.
So, and that's the one good, like when you know, well, we've happened to, like everybody's been in hospice, that, you know, you get to say your goodbyes, but then it's hard because then you watch them suffer for so long. But
and then another thing, there was a quote I thought was very, in our discussion right now. I can't think of his name. His first name is Charles, I think. I think of the last name. Anyway, I read something he said, and I thought, this is so true. He said, we're all dying. We're all going to die.
spoiler alert.
All of us.
Yeah.
He said, you would think that a thought like that would make us love each other.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, isn't that profound? When you think everybody is going to die one day, and you know, when you hear a friend is dying or someone, you get so sad. And he thought, everybody is.
Well, that's what I said. I hate to spoil the ending, but you're gonna die too.
I know we're really morbid today, but
No, but that
really
was
not.
But you know what? All that taught me. So you know, when I do all this stuff, people are like, "Oh my gosh, Tracy! Like I was a roller derby girl at 43, or you know, I jumped out of an airplane and I did all that," because I said I kind of feel like, not that I'm living for them, but I said too, I remember when Chris was laying in her bed and I was sitting in her room just like looking at her.
Yeah.
And she was only 42, and I thought to myself, I wonder what she wished she would have done while she was alive.
Yeah.
And I thought that for all the other ones. And Al left me this letter, and it confirmed my thing. He said, you live your life, Tracy. He goes, he's kind of envious. He said, you know, you just do what you want to do. And I never knew that he thought that. But, you know, that there is no time other than the present.
That's all you got?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you can't put things off because you don't know. Right?
One more thing, and now I hope I didn't forget it. Oh, yeah. Stupid.
Oh.
That bothered me really, really, because I thought it was a nice word. And I was...
How did you think stupid was a nice word?
Well, I mean, I didn't think it was
a lot of people
bad
said
word.
they liked.
I say that I thought I did a stupid thing. It's just, I just thought it was kind of, well, I tell you, today I looked it up on the dictionary on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And it had 3 definitions of stupid. One is questioning somebody's intelligence. I never, ever thought that's what it meant. That is rude and it's terrible.
You never thought that's what it meant? That's all I thought it meant.
No, I never heard that.
Really?
I mean, that's not what I thought.
Isn't it funny that, yeah.
No.
Okay.
And then the second definition for stupid is stupid from lack of sleep, you know, or the hit on the head or something, an injury, you know, or lack of sleep. The third one is frivolous, lighthearted, and the other one's a good word too. But it's all about frivolity, you know, and funny, kind of funny. I mean, and that's always what I thought it was.
Okay.
I mean, you made a mistake, you know, I mean, or, you know, did something wrong and you think, oh, it's stupid. I never thought, and I think it's a fun word to say. Like,
hey, stupid. Hey, stupid.
Well, you have to get into my head. Like, I think IKEA. It's a fun word to say. I probably am a little off my rocker. I'm old.
Well, if you know you're off your rocker, then you're not off your rocker.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, truly, but I'm not going to be able to say it anymore, though, because it has those other 2 terrible meanings. So, anyway, this is confession time.
I told you, that's how I felt when I was doing that thing. Like, I was in the box and confessional and, telling all my sins that I didn't even have. Oh, and I was going to say, too, there's probably a boom on the cat clocks because people are probably at Amazon wondering why so many people are ordering cat clocks. I saw in the comments, it's the first time I ever look for a clock. I'm ordering a cat clock. So now... Oh, and somebody said that the time was wrong. Yeah, it says 11:45.
And that's a good thing. I'd like to, you know, when you say those things, I think...
You want to clarify?
I want to
Welcome to my world, yes.
The thing is, I have 4 cat clocks.
4, yeah.
4. And you know, you have to set them by hand. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you have to take them off the wall and turn that little thing.
Yeah.
The battery doesn't do the tail, I don't think. It's magnets that does the tail, but it does a clock. And the thing is, I never use those clocks for time.
No, they're just cute.
And I have to tell you, anyone who's going to buy one, though, you have to be very careful with them. They don't really make them as good as they did back in the 40s when they were popular. Then they plugged in, they were sturdy. I mean, they're just as cute now, but they're a lot more fragile. Mm-hmm. So I don't like taking them off unless I do have to change the batteries.
Yeah. So I thought it was funny. Somebody said that it was hypnotizing them.
I can see that. If you really sat and looked at
me, yeah, because it goes back and forth.
I think it would. Maybe if you want to meditate, I don't know. That might help.
Hypnotize them to finish watching us, I think. Yes, so that was our plan the whole time.
Was that the plan?
My plan. That was my plan.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, sorry to end it on a down. I mean, it's not a downer. I mean, it's our life, right? It's just our life.
Yes. Well, it wasn't as funny, but the thing is, I mean, gee, Sandy's going to be moving, and I'm going to go in a new apartment, and you're going to go back and do bracelets and things like that. So.
And do bracelets and travel, but I'll be back then because everybody.
Yes, she'll be back.
Everybody wants you to be like you'll be a reoccurring person on my show.
I will?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody wants to know more about Joy. And then we can show them your new apartment and stuff.
Oh, my new apartment. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's exciting. Yeah, we went to see it the other day and it was so nice and the people there are nice. And
I only have one more story.
Okay.
About this house. You know, I don't think in sequence. They just pop up. And
I know.
They just
it's hard to remember after 92 years of things in sequence.
This would be after Dad died, and I stayed in my house on Donegal for a year. And I looked, I was still driving. My eyes were good then, 20/20 vision.
I hope so.
20, yes, they were. And I looked at senior homes then, but I wasn't quite ready for them because they
I told him that's what you said, like, they're old there.
And I was in my late 70s,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was about 77, or because I think right after I moved here, I turned 80.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it took me a year and then some time to get settled here. But no.
Is that the story?
No. I think I forgot. No, let me see.
So you moved from Donegal.
Yes. Oh, yes, I was.
Quick, say it before you forget it.
This is so embarrassing. But this is what it is. I mean, this is how I roll. This is it.
This is my jam. I forget everything all the time too, so you're not alone, and I'm only 56.
But anyway, I gotta keep thinking about it, or I'll
okay, quick, say it.
Okay, I was still on Donegal, and I remember one night I had a dream, and I don't dream that often, so I really notice them when I have them. And I dreamt, I don't even know if you know this story, but I dreamt that, well, Sandy, I have to digress. Sandy and Dan moved here, and they had just moved here, and they were working on the inside, and they had added an addition, a master bedroom addition, but the garage was crumbling. It was small, and it was not in very good shape. So they said, well, we're going to do the garage. You know, we'll wait quite a while because we've got so much to do. And so, but this night, I dreamt that I built an apartment over their crumbling garage. It was a
It
funny
happened,
day.
although it's not crumbling.
No, it's a new garage now. But
it's like a 5-car garage.
And it's nice, yes.
Yeah.
But anyway, but that's what I dreamt. I dreamt the garage was tumbling and I built an apartment over it. And I didn't think much about it. A couple days later, I had to go to Sandy's to pick something up. And I got there and got what I was going to get, and then had a cup of coffee. We were talking a while. And then I said to them, I said, what are you guys going to do this afternoon? And she said, oh, we're going to go to an architect. And I said, what you going to build? And she said,
what you going to build? Yeah. Yeah.
And she said, well, we have decided that we can't go another winter without a new garage because we got to park our car and we have stuff we have to store. And so we have to do the garage. And so we're on the way to the architect this afternoon. And I just said, well, that's really nice. And then I said, oh, by the way, speaking of your garage, I said, I just had a dream the other night that I built an apartment over your falling apart garage. It says it was a funny dream. And then they said, you know. Yes, they laughed and they laughed.
Yeah.
And they laughed.
Yeah.
And then I went home. And then about a month later, 3 weeks later, there's a knock on my door. It's Sandy and Dan. And they come in and immediately go to my kitchen table and unroll this.
Oh, and did they show you?
I don't think I ever told you that story. Unroll.
But we're almost an hour in, so.
Oh, unroll this thing. And I said, what's that? And they said, it's our garage. And I said, but it has an apartment over it. And they said, yeah. We told the architect just for fun to see how it would look. And so, and then of course, the idea was there, the plan was there, we talked about it, and as it turned out, that's what happened. I sold my house and moved here then.
Yeah, it turned out perfect.
It turned out that, and this is where we are now. And I've been here, what, for about...
Well, and you paid for your...
Oh,
your apartment.
I sold my house and
yeah.
used some of my money to pay for it. Well, they certainly couldn't afford to build me an apartment above their garage.
But yeah, it's great.
But, you know, I got my money's worth. I haven't paid rent for all these years because I did invest in this.
Yes.
So
anyway, can you believe it's almost an hour that we've been talking?
No,
Doesn't
I
it go
can't
by
believe
fast?
I hope we weren't too
Debbie Downers, negative Nellies. What else is the name for that?
I don't know.
Karens?
No, yeah.
No, well, it's life. It's our life, right?
That's it.
It's just the truth.
It'll be funny from now on.
Oh. It doesn't always have to be funny.
Oh,
but I mean, that's how life goes. And that's why I say, you know, like, you can be sad.
Oh,
it's
okay. Of course. And I know.
You can feel whatever you want to feel. And then just, you know that you aren't going to stay there. Oh, remember we were talking about this?
But
I don't want to go any longer. Remember, I had an aha moment the other night because it's really been bothering me that, like, about this, you're telling people to be positive all the time. Because I get it. We're very positive people. We are.
I think so.
But
I think so.
I think when somebody's down, because I've been there, and then just trying to tell somebody to be positive, it doesn't work like that. And then you feel like your feelings are negated, even though the meaning is well intentioned from people when they're saying, oh, think positive thoughts, or, you know. But remember what we said? What I think, like, the answer is, or whatever, is that you'll send them positive thoughts.
And that's the way I feel.
Right.
Because I was talking to her. I said, I was reading this book, and I mean, it's nothing I don't know, because I've read, there's a lot of books out there.
Right.
But it was how much power there is in positive thinking.
Right.
Compared. He calibrates. That's not a big thing now. I wish it would be. It's new, and people should do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way you're going to find the truth in some ways. But anyway, and negative thoughts, you know, they're
but sometimes you're in a lull, but then the other person, instead of saying, oh, just think positive, because you can't, like, that doesn't help anybody really, because they know, I mean, you know, saying that, but you saying, I'll send positive thoughts to you,
and this is
will
the
help
point,
them, because it's so powerful.
This is the point at which I was agreeing with you, because it's not, they at that time can't think positive
for
thoughts
themselves,
because they're in this turmoil in their thinking and feeling. And so what you do is you think positive thoughts.
Right, and send it to them.
And surround them with these positive thoughts.
Yes.
And that's where the power comes in.
Yeah.
Until they can do the positive thoughts themselves.
Yeah. Because they will eventually get out of it. Nothing stays the same.
No.
And that's the thing about even us talking about like this, even in life, nothing ever, the only thing that's guaranteed is everything changes.
This too shall pass. Yep. Nothing lasts forever.
Right. And so we'll end it on that note. That's a good note to end it on, right? Positive thinking.
Positive thinking. And that's, you could do a whole show about positive thinking.
Well, maybe we will.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, Mom. Well, it's been fun talking to you all week.
It's been fun, yes.
It's gone by fast.
Yes, and I am going to be so lonely when she goes back.
I'll be back in like a month.
I know. I know.
About 4 weeks.
I know.
I know,
I should have said that to her.
I know. I know. Okay, what do we say? Go out.
We say go out and have an adventure.
Oh, you know what we forgot to say in the very beginning?
What? Good morning.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Oh no, we're gonna film it right after this because I'm gonna put it beforehand so that because we can't start.
Are you sure we forgot?
Yeah.
I forgot.
I forgot. I have an excuse, my head hurt. I went to the chiropractor today. I've had a headache.
She had a headache.
So, okay, go out and make an adventure, right?
Yes.
No matter how big or how small.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And call someone you love.
Yes.
Or tell them that you love them.
Tell someone you love them.
Tell someone I love you.
I love you too.
And what's the last thing?
And don't forget
your magic. Don't forget your magic. Okay? Okay. Okay, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.